And joining us to discuss is Mike Leon, NTD News contributor and host of the Can We Please Talk podcast. Good to have you with us today, Mike.
Thanks for having me, Steph, as always.
Yeah, national Democrats are saying that they're one step closer to reclaiming the House of Representatives in 2026 after Judge Crawford's win in Wisconsin. Conservatives had warned of the possibility of redistricting in the Democrats' favor, and Judge Crawford did participate in a meeting with liberal donors earlier this year that was pitched as a chance to put 2 House seats in play. Is there any doubt in your mind that this could be one outcome of this election? And how could that concretely impact Trump's agenda if it is?
Yeah, well, Steph, I would push back not on your question, but something I heard Elon Musk say in the package, right? Like judges don't actually gerrymander districts, right? It's the way the districts are drawn up, and then the legal battle happens in the court. So then the judges will decide on whether or not the constitutionality of the gerrymandering of it all. But I mean, it is a consequence of elections. Elections always have consequences, Steph. Like this is why so much money was poured into this race. You know, I want to echo something. I saw somebody on television in one of these like post-election talking to voters coming out of the precincts and stuff like that. And one of the voters who actually had voted for Donald Trump in the fall and voted for Susan Crawford in this special election runoff, he said, look, if I agree with Trump about there are states issues and we should push these things to the state and the federal shouldn't have intervention in it, he's like, well, then we need to put people in the positions that have, you know, the state's rights at heart. And abortion is going to be on the ballot with respect to Wisconsin. So I think that, you know, this is what happens when you have an election. And I love that Brad Schimmel, by the way, said, you know, the numbers are not there. We're going to respect the results of the election. That's the way, you know, this democratic process happens. But, you know, there could be a consequence of this as it gets down the road. But the judges will decide on that. There just happens to be a liberal majority with respect to the Supreme Court now in Wisconsin, Steph.
Oh, you touched on many great topics I want to get to. But first up, President Trump earlier posted on social media that the parallel Wisconsin referendum that passed requiring voter ID should allow the GOP to win Wisconsin for many years to come. That was his quote. Do you expect a purge of voter rolls in Wisconsin before the midterms? And based on recent voter roll audits, do you expect that to turn up many invalid voters?
Yeah, I mean, we have to see how that plays out. I will say about the voter ID law, and again, I don't know if I necessarily agree with the president's overarching statement, because as we saw in this special election, that nobody in the country pays attention to judicial, you know, elections happening statewide. You know, a Democratic candidate won. But so I don't know if the trend is going that, just like I know Democrats right now are trying to say, hey, this is emblematic of the first 100 days of the administration. This is what's going to play out in the midterms. I don't think that it's too early to judge any of that stuff. But I will say, look, I think sensible Democrats do want voter ID registration. The problem is always, how long are voting, you know, polling places, you know, staying open until, and what are the forms of identification? Because if this Wisconsin law is in line with, like, for example, here in Florida, like the voter IDs that we do have to present are typical ones that you would present, you know, before a flight, before an airport, like in terms of your passport, in terms of your ID, even if you don't have a driver's license, a state registered ID. So I think I'm in agreement with this passing on the ballot. I don't know if this is something that's going to purge voters or will it turn voters away. But I will say it gives voters time before the midterms to understand, and I would encourage Wisconsin voters out there, go find out what this new law requires in terms of an ID. If you don't have that identification, make sure you get it now before the 2026, obviously, elections that happen in your state.
Right. And just to your earlier point, in your first answer, Judge Schimmel, who was defeated, had warned in his campaigning that the Republic was at stake in this election. And he had said that Democrats are taking away one of the branches of government by legislating from the bench. Your response to that?
Yeah, they shouldn't. I mean, you know, look, I think I've been on this network a few times explaining that, like, the judicial branch interprets laws, right? Judges are not supposed to have a partisan lean. I know people are going to roll their eyes and the connotation behind that, but like, that's the way it's supposed to be. Sure, they have a worldview outside of the courtroom, but they're supposed to be there to be the standard bearer of the way the law is applied. But something that Schimmel said is, you know, once the vote tally is done, like, these are the numbers, math is math, and I do, you know, concede the election race. But is the Republic crumbling or on the ballot? I mean, if you just look at Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Supreme Court has decided on a lot of issues that have come up in the state, Steph. I mentioned abortion in my earlier answer, but there are other things that are going to come up on the Wisconsin ballot. And Wisconsin is a true swing state. I would say it's one of the true purple states that we have in the union where, it went for Donald Trump in 2016, it went for Joe Biden in 2020, it went for Donald Trump again in 2024. So these elections do have consequences. And, the judiciary should not be, it should be deciding case law and when cases are brought before the bench. It shouldn't be, writing legislation with respect to, the way it plays out like that. So I get his sentiment and overarching premise and why this election was so important and why you see so much money poured into the state of Wisconsin. But again, we have three branches of government in this country, as well as at the state level and the federal level. And the judiciary now is in the direction of liberals in the Supreme Court in Wisconsin. We're going to see how they decide on some key issues that affect Wisconsin voters from 2025 and beyond.
As we heard earlier, this is the most expensive judicial election in U.S. history, but Judge Crawford, in her victory speech, said that she will be a fair, impartial, common sense judge. Considering the $2 million donation from George Soros, which was used for Crawford's campaign, and other large donations, how can voters track whether this new appointee is fulfilling her promise?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And look, the same question should have been asked if Schimmel won, right? Because there was donations coming in from the Republican side and some other PACs that donated money into that area. So This is the questions that are being asked right now of everybody. Like, how are you supposed to be impartial? So it's incumbent upon us as voters to hold these people accountable. The way we hold them accountable is by the decisions that they make, and then when they're up again on the ballot, we make sure that we vote them off the ballot. That's the way this process works. So again, I can't say it enough, Steph. Elections have consequences right now for the voters of Wisconsin. And right now, whether or not they're in agreement with the Trump administration over these first 100 days, et cetera, I think I want to echo what that voter said when they were leaving the polling precinct. And this is, again, somebody that voted for Trump, but also voted for Susan Crawford. It's really about, if we truly believe the federal government should not be interjecting into everything and we should let the states decide on certain issues, well, then Wisconsin last night said that they want a liberal majority in their Supreme Court. And when there are cases that are being fought, they want the liberal perspective that comes with it. Now we have to see how that plays out. If it, negates the state, does it benefit the state, et cetera, over time. And I would encourage voters, don't be short-term memory on this, have a long-term memory on this and carry it over to the ballot box. If what is playing out in your state and the decisions that Susan Crawford maybe tips the scales on, that maybe are things that you don't agree with and you've, fought hard for, make sure you, next time that they're up for a vote, you don't put these people in the positions to be voted into office. So that's the way you have your voice, and that's the way it can be heard, especially for the people out there in Wisconsin and the people across all 50 states.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you. Call 877-476-1681. That's 877-476-1681. Call now.